You can start.
We can start. Yes. So, hello, folks. Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be hosted by University that of IIU. First, let's get a definition for this university. This university is called the International Internship. It's the world's first internship university. It's the world's first internship university based virtual, building a better and brighter future for all young learners. And it is committed to provide quality, accessible, affordable, skill-based, and location-independent education to learners across the world. So this university is providing many services to more than 1,000 courses and internships to the e-learners online across the globe, with the theme of course, high caliber and experienced global educators, as it has been accredited and affiliated with the World Education Organization and International Accreditation Organization, and collaborated with all the world's top universities and education institutions through the platform of massive open online courses. You already know, I think the majority know what is this, if we try to abbreviate it into short form, which is called MOOC, if you know. So the subject of concern of today that I'm going to tackle in my presentation is about training and education skills. So let's talk about first training and education skills. Training, it comes from train. So training is used by professors and teachers in all around the world just to provide services for students and for learners who are about to study and learn something new. And education is a system, it's a kind of system that helps one in gaining theoretical in classroom, for example. This education, it includes learning and teaching for a long period of time. In the education, teachers teach, for example, students and help them acquire the language by attending the class in the school, colleges, or other educational institutes. For example, if we try to dig deep and give some examples and some clarifications, we suppose that Mr. Sam is doing graduation, okay, or from Punjab University, for example, Chandigarh. So in this semester, is acquiring the knowledge regarding accountability or accountancy and management by attending the classes in his university. So education means the bringing out of the ideas of universal validity, which are latent in the mind of every man, okay? Education is the creation of a sound mind in a sound body. It develops man faculty, especially the mind that has to be able to enjoy the contemplation of supreme truth, okay? Godness, beauty, of which perfect happiness essentially consists. So currently, Kazakh education, for example, is improving personal qualities of students and is aiming at developing certain abilities to use in terms of knowledge in life in general. Therefore, the content of education is in terms of activity is defined as one of the main educational methods. Okay, there's a dissertation handled by Zadrina 2004. That is why active education, so there is a difference between active and not active. Active education is closely linked to the student-centered education. So the form of centered education is really important. It aims at developing social opportunities identified by students, for example, interests, abilities, and other personal characters. And for student-centered learning differs from the educational bringing up process based on the knowledge paradigm. So student-centered learning is an ordered set of activities, operations, and activities directed at the development of the individual, which provides means required to achieve results in the pedagogical situations. Actively, the education in a sense is a precondition which defines personal development. Therefore, this property is stemmed from the need aimed at the transformation of cognition, interest, and the surrounding reality. So knowledge here is gained through assimilation determined by improved interest to personal characteristics, matter in the future work, in life, or in gaining new knowledge. And for the students to grasp things widely, systematically, there is a solution for human. So systematic solution of human activity problems can be helpful in the effective examination of what is current theoretically and handled by theorists nowadays. So the need to understand the fact that knowledge gained by students will become applied demonstrates the essence of activity orientation. So this activity is divided into several periods. Namely, these include self-control. So in fact, if we really want to mend the situation of what concerns education and training, so active listening is really important. So psychologically speaking, one has to include in this formula self-control, practical implementation, and application of the acquired knowledge, the background knowledge, abilities and skills in the new conditions, the ability to present one's own results independently. So therefore, activity results in the ability to plan personal formed work, to organize the workplace, the ability to use dictionaries, the ability to keep the control diary, and other educational activities of students. So students training, in this case, for students training activities are considered as part of the educational content. However, there is no precise definition of academic ability, which is the category of learning activities. Thus, it is difficult to say which actions, activities, methods, or properties form of the basic of academic ability. And in order to understand this, deeply, one needs to disclose the concepts of skill. And despite the fact that its meaning is not difficult to understand, there are many different views in terms of summarizing its definitions if we try to see them differently. It is determined by the fact that some researchers gave their views, their standpoints through this concept as a psychological and pedagogical category. So firstly, skill regarded as a category of activity. This makes it possible to disclose meaningful and activity-related aspects of skills development. And however, this does not include personality changes in primary school pupils. So in this situation, specific skills can be considered as the use of knowledge by pupils, students, and the quality and method of training activities. And these training activities are defined in terms of activity. The more activities we do, the efficient results we get at the end. Secondly, students' ability to perform purposeful activities is explained with regard of the personal viewpoints of in what concerns in terms of individual qualities. Thirdly, considering skills in terms of personal activities, they are formed with specific activities determined by objective features. Uh, However, at the same time, they also present the knowledge-focused ability to consciously achieve personal results, goals, targets, you know. And if we try to understand education and compare it with training and education, if we try to compare it with the old one with what is modern, what is postmodern, there is a huge difference. So modern teaching techniques educate children well and make them understand clearly. How? In this era, there is an increased usage of the internet. So in educational applications, this could mean that students and teachers will increasingly make use of technology within open and flexible learning systems. And of course, we can mention the COVID-19, which already spread, has already anticipated many goals thanks to the quarantine we have been in. So people became conglomerately, collectively habituated to using technology with all its sets. So technology plays an important role in enhancing and developing our learning system intended outcomes as well and intended results of using modern teaching techniques for teacher professional development need to be explored then. There are some certain skills and capabilities of using different modern teaching technologies, which are necessary for students as well as teachers. Therefore, it is necessary to prepare, to prepare them for the age of modern teaching technology or the modern post era. So this era is really different from what we have been using before. So systematically, the whole world become or has the idea of using the internet and remote learning. Now let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages through e-learning in university, for example, or whatever, by using what is online. Here, I have to deal with electronic learning because it's really important to talk about electronic learning or e-learning. So the idea of e-learning is conducively related to electronic. What is electronic? So electronic learning or e-learning is used to offer instructional programs to distant learners. It is a form of online learning platform that emerges in campuses in a formal context and utilizes a variety of multimedia technologies and curricula tools. So electronic hardware and software. So the hardware and the software support this system either offline or online. If you are online, you benefit from. If you are offline, you can have access to by the time. Why not? A personal computer is usually used for delivering training or computer enhanced learning. It helps a lot in joining the sessions of e-learning. So it facilitated the process of learning thanks to this advance of new technologies. Other communication technologies deliver learning based on tutorials, learning support systems, and online lectures. I advise students to attend many lectures online, even if they are still not ready for this operations and this processes through learning online, but their parents should engage them, help them. If they don't know, they should pay for them or do some trainings so that they can join the online training, the online learning. It's really helpful. So the whole world became such a small village. It was already a small village, but in fact, because of this advance, this huge advance, the colossal change, so all people shifted from a face-to-face learning, joined this kind of learning, which is electronic and e-learning online, all right? And this technology, of course, is not done for granted. It is purposeful and it helped many people to have access to facilitate the process of transactions online, not only learning and teaching. So it's a form of facilitation. So it is, in fact, this technology is based on many criteria. So for improving, in terms of teaching, it helped the students and the teachers to improve classroom engagement through positive environments where students are deliberately engaged in online lectures for completing a task assigned to them. So students can learn online apart from attending their classroom or their regular classroom. There are many applications that can be used in such a way of learning. So e-learning ensures that students are completely involved as learning takes place together with texts, videos, sounds, collaborative sharing, and interactive graphics. So what we mean by interactive graphics? So students can learn through graphics and they can be subject to many tables and screens which contain some information relevant to the topic of concern, and the teacher will be dealing with according to the lesson, according to the activities he is about to deal with. What is demanded from the student is to master the usage and the way of having access to. So the integration of information technology in this deal, what we call as an abbreviation, the IT, in the form of e-learning has resulted in the reduction of students' cost. So this kind of e-learning has reduced the cost of students while improving the quality of learning and teaching. So this shows that e-learning can be economical for students using it, and they can perform other useful activities in their space time. So what does that mean? It means that thanks to this kind of learning, which is online, many students can benefit from courses, at a very low price. So it is economical. This e-learning is economical for students, and they can perform okay, as other useful activities in their space time. So which means they can't move, they can't waste their time, for example, moving from one country to another. They can learn online, they can get certificates online. So this is the thing that's made this e-learning outstanding, okay, paramount. So there is another advantage when talking about education and e-learning, in the sense that it is a major advantage of e-learning. Why? Flexibility. Why it is a major advantage? Because it provides learners the benefit to take classes anywhere and anytime. You are free, you can join whenever. It's just a kind of, you know, appointment or arrangement set by who is going to deliver the session and who is going to attend. So furthermore, a learning okay, cater, or we can say encompasses different types and varieties of learning approaches. Why? So by utilizing much interactive content, okay, available on the internet, so everyone can have access. So the accessibility of technology and so on and so forth is really functional thanks to this advent of e-learning strategies. And not only for primary students and middle school students. Currently, higher education in United Arab Emirates, for example, is experiencing a major transformation considering increased accessibility. In this sense, knowledge is being created and implemented to the higher education setting with innovative ways to obtain and share information and changes in technology at a rapid rate. So educational institutions are providing online classes or courses using online elements and a face-to-face course delivery. So universities deliver almost all courses using websites, where you're using web-based technology to facilitate, to make it easier for students and for learners to have access to. So this is so therefore it becomes essential for understanding the advantages and disadvantages as perceived by the learners, and further acts upon the enhancements areas for successful integration of online learning based on the increasing importance of online programs. So there is a theory that I want to share, which is a sociocultural theory and constructivism. So these theories are really literally, but they are really beneficial for everyone to know. So social cultural theory and constructivism are beneficial to explain the use of social networks in online learning, collaborative learning, and the importance of social integration in online social learning environments. For example, Lev Vygotsky in 1987 has explained that children learn effectively in a social environment. What does that mean? Thanks to interaction, thanks to face-to-face, thanks to watching, audiovisual, all these things and factors, external factors, contribute in a way or another to helping, enabling the students to master and get equipped with what is already done or given to achieve certain results, okay, outstanding results, okay, beneficial results, leading one to score good results. Vygotsky has explained that children learn effectively in a social environment and create meaning using engagement with others. When a child is able to perform and solve problems or complicated tasks that he or she can autonomously with direction, supports, and collaboration. If we try to guide the child, okay, so the child will be really efficient in what he does, thanks to our sharing, thanks to our direction and support and collaboration. So if we try to dig deep, we can say that students need some help, monitors, somebody who follow their actions, their steps to get where they want. So this is efficient for us and for the students. Students can actively participate in learning or in the learning process if the classes are managed to support learning using discovery. This type of learning offers students to inductively and independently join and hug the postmodern era of e-learning activities. And the implementation of e-learning in education has been favorable in multiple contexts. Previous studies have presented several advantages associated by the implementation of e-learning technologies into university education and so on and so forth. So that's why we can say that it's really important. It's really important for instructors to embrace the new technology, the advanced technology throughout the process of teaching. And therefore, learning has a range of skills in information and communication technology. So it is also observed that e-learning systems allow enhanced communication between students and instructors. So it helped so much and enabled students to join and be efficient in studies. And there is something very important. Part-time and full-time students can actively participate in the online degree courses selected from any location or place, providing people who are traveling or relocated. An easily accessible resource for experience and learning. So people who are traveling or relocated, they can find it easy to wrestle with, of course. So the integration of or the use of e-learning offers disabled people, those who are subject to problems, healthy problems, maybe they have some problems in physical, in the body or something like, so they can find it easy to deal with. Although the system has a similar name, however, the function of each system is different. In the process of e-learning has been widely used by various educational institutions, and it is further regarded as a platform that is used to manage users' experience while interacting with e-learning content or content. So if we talked about e-learning and its advantages, at the same time, we have some drawbacks. What are the drawbacks that we can talk about, that we can tackle through talking about this e-learning or electronic e-learning. Despite the significant advantages of e-learning, students encounter several challenges, which ultimately lead towards either limited or negative outcomes, drawbacks, setbacks, or whatever. The metamorphosis can be very strange sometimes. So it metamorphizes or whatever, or metamorphoses, sorry, the idea of how it can be tackled, how it can be seen for students who don't know the disadvantage of e-learning. Then, in such a formula, there are some who claim and talked about this issue widely, such as Arkorfo and Abidu in 2015. In their study, outlined that e-learning in certain cases is held through remoteness and contemplation, resulting in something very bad, in lack of students' interaction. So in comparison with the contemporary mode of education, e-learning might result in being less effective due to the absence of face-to-face encounter with instructions of teachers. So through this idea, I can say that we can't rely 100% on the form of e-learning. Why? Because it shapes the learners from developing. It shapes the learners from seeing other areas of work face-to-face, because it's really different. So face-to-face, there are some questions to respond to, clear ideas, many things that we can handle, we can deal with. But remotely, it's really different. Why? Because we see only the picture and the voice of the person. So there is no social contact, there is no face-to-face. So it's really difficult for everyone. We can use this remote learning as a extra thing, not for every day, not for full time. If we use it all the time, then we're gonna be like robots, you know. In comparison with the contemporary mode of education, e-learning might result in being less effective, as I said. What is most important is that since in e-learning method, assessments are generally held online, which reduces possibility of restricting illegitimate activities such as cheating, plagiarism, and so on and so forth. The absence of essential personal interactions is the most noticeable drawback of e-learning, the absence. What is the most important thing here is that there is an absence of essential personal interactions. Yeah. And it's the most noticeable drawback or setback, and not only among colleague learners, but also between instructors, learners, and so on and so forth. There is a scarcity, okay? Something very scarce of community in the online learning environment, as students' engagement is much less of a concern when compared with student instruction or student instructor interactions. A scholar called Gilbert highlighted that most of the students wish to work autonomously to avoid the need to interact with their classmates. Cultural barriers is another importance. It's another important disadvantage. Why? Because in this area of work, it can evaluate the influence of cultural characteristics, which means not all students can understand, can interact with foreign cultures. It includes individualism and collectivism in determining the perceived success of e-learning and so on and so forth. And technology is a platform that can be easily acquired for granted when it is engaged into daily activities in daily life. It's not widely used because of the lack of monetary benefits of achieving access. And here, the global knowledge is available on the internet. It's led by increasing the proportion of computers. So the proportion of computers is widely used and other electronic devices to students. Another disadvantage is maintaining motivation in an online course and that online learner's experience. Students who lack self-motivation and independence, so those who don't have independence and lack self-motivation had reduced success rates as compared to their counterparts. So learners, in this case, that lack self-regulation have a tendency to not assign sufficient time for completing assignments. Therefore, switching in poor quality work or late assignments. Overall, we can say that successful students have stronger beliefs that they will succeed better, okay? Technology skills and access, higher self-responsibility, and higher self-organization skills. All right. So there are many areas of work that we can encompass to widen and broach the subject of concern, which is training and education skills, okay? Not only one chapter, one thing. So I will be talking about something very important, which is modern teaching techniques in education. So here I'm going to talk about the online streaming videos. So for modern teaching techniques in education, it's really different from traditional. So people shifted into what is postmodern, not only modern, to what is really remote. Online streaming videos, interactive with boards, visualizers, response systems, CDs, projectors, educational software, etc. It acts as a tool for the teachers to explain the concepts in a more effective and lucid manner. Teachers can teach, for example, the students with more depth and efficiency and also clear all in their doubts with modern teaching techniques. Teachers must use various types of modern teaching techniques to connect with the students. It's really helpful for them to acquire the language and acquire the knowledge they are seeking for. So with the modern teaching techniques, among these classifications, some of the modern teaching techniques with the help of advanced technology are frequently used or adopted in classrooms, we can see them in a detailed manner. For example, in brainstorming. So students who are habituated to learn online or to study online, they can develop certain competencies like brainstorming. Why? Because they listen more than they talk. So when you listen more than you talk, then you develop certain skills, certain competencies like brainstorming. You will be able to develop this skill. And many students, by the way, many students, especially children, don't know what is brainstorming. So it is a group creativity technique that was designed to generate a larger number of ideas for the solution of a problem. Problem solving itself is a process to choose and use that effective and beneficial tool and behaviors among the different potentialities to reach the target. It contains scientific methods, critical thinking, taking decisions, and maybe, all right, examining and reflecting, thinking what you think about. So if you brainstorm, it does not mean any kind of writing. It's conglomerate. It contains, it can encompasses all the areas of work that the brain processes inside. And this technique, it provides students to face the problem boldly, okay, courageously, not to stand, not to stop at a level, but to broaden any knowledge in paper and write it and ask questions or ponder them, and to deal with this issue in a specific or in a scientific approach. If they are asked to talk about something or an issue, they will be able. Why? Because they have already listened to something interesting. So the brain is processing that thing in a psychological, okay, way. And there is another type of learning, which is cooperative learning, mind map. So the brain or the mind is used as a map in this case, the cooperative learning. So it's successful. It is a successful teaching technique in which small teams, each with students of different levels of ability, use the variety of learning activities to improve their understanding of subjects, uh, the development of a subject. How do they tackle it? How do they see it? How do they perceive what comes after or behind the scene? So each member of a team is responsible not only for learning what is taught, but also for helping teammates and learning at the same time. That's creating the atmosphere of achievement. Students here work with or through the assignments, the homework, until all the members successfully understand, explore, and complete it. And then cooperative learning efforts result in participants striving for mutual benefit for all the group members. There is another form which is apart from brainstorming, as I said before, audiovisual aids. So this technique or these techniques are being widely adopted and used in many of the educational institutions. So which have a separate audiovisual room or lab or whatever. By the growth of technology, so by the advancement of technology, so children are showing much interest in computer-based learning, like the PowerPoint presentations. So many students and many learners tend to use the PowerPoint form or formats. Why? Because it's professional. So that's one of the new metamorphoses that students tend to. It develops teamwork among the students as they are required to work in teams for such project-based learning. So it's all about interaction. So and there is another area of work, which is interactive electronic whiteboard. So this is a very recent development wherein the whole board acts like a touch screen, with the students being able to do various manipulations directly on the board itself. Basically, the white electronic board is connected to a digital projector, which projects the material on the computer onto the board, then without the need of touching the computer. That's it. So the students in this case can do mathematical calculations, Scrabble solving, and so on and so forth by the use of stylus provider. So by using or by the use of a stylus provider. There is another form of learning, which is M-learning. M-learning. We talked about e-learning before. Now we're going to talk about M-learning. So M-learning is a technique whereby learning occurs in a multiple contexts through social and content interaction, like what? So technologies are available by using personal electronic devices such as handheld computers, handheld, so or laptops, so MP3 players, MP3 players. It starts with M, so that's why we call this M learning. Notebooks, mobile phones. That's why it's called M. It starts with M, so M learning. So mobile phones and tablets. M learning is more convenient and access at any time and anywhere. If we talk about a laptop, you can have access to anytime because it's something you can hold with you, okay, in your bag or whatever. The same thing happens when we talk about mobile phones. So this is it. So here, e-learning is instructional. So instructional content or learning experiences delivered by somebody is really enabling electronic learning to be flourished by this advent of new technologies. And we have other forms, okay? We don't have only M-learning. We have other forms. E-learning teaching strategies are e-lecturing, okay? E-lecturing, e-discussion, e-monitoring, e-tutorial, e-access to network resources, e-structured group activity, e-informal peer interaction, e-connected education, e-quality learning, and simulation. So this is it. And what is interesting for students is that when they use modern teaching techniques, they participate in media revolution profoundly, and they affect the way they think about. So they improve also the ways of learning in views of learning fashions. So it's really fashionable to study online and to learn online, okay? And they all not only benefit from what is online, so they extend the ability, their abilities and skills can be, can be widened in a wider area of concern. So it all depends to the way they study online. So skills apply in their learning environment, real situations by the time. And they can develop working in groups for cooperative and collaborative learning. Yes. They can also develop certain habits, we can call them self-learning habits, at their own pace and time. It all depends to the way they see things, okay? It all depends to the way they see things, and they can learn with the teacher rather than by the teacher. So developing equity and learning habits. So they change the habits by learning online. And there is the kind of exchange. So exchange learning experiences and information with others. Students and teachers living anywhere in the world, they can exchange. They can work collaboratively, so they can study things all together, elucidate them differently in a wide area of work. They can try to give their points of views. They can help each other uh, to discuss broadly, it all depends. So thus information technologies facilitate, pave the way for students in their learning process through their active participation, not only what happens, okay, inside or whatever. So on one hand, and help teachers on the other hand. So this is the kind of technologies that we can consider efficient. Why? Because it helps and enables the students to have access to many areas of work, thanks to this, of course, e-learning. And for the teachers, they have to prepare all students to join the new uh, modern technology, which became efficient. By requiring, for example, students to use electronic database in their searches, okay, engaging students to use electronic mail to ask questions or ponder them, for submitting assignments online. Yes, why not? And becoming familiar, getting involved, acquainted with the advantages and the disadvantages of the technologies, and exploring the capabilities of compact disk, read only memory, and so on and so forth. So this is it. And for video conferencing, for those who are really efficient, they can participate in conferences. Students who are still very young, they can learn about by the time. Surveying students about their familiarity with the modern teaching technologies and asking if they will share their knowledge and skills with the class. So using a word processor, so to develop class notes and editing, a version to use as students' handouts, and a version for overhead transparencies. So now I'm going to tackle something else apart from what I have already mentioned before. Okay. So the focus when it comes to training and education skills is all about effective communication. So there is, and that's why there is a demand for today. There is a demand for business English, for those who are professionals, you know, English became one of the first languages that businessmen and companies or whatever can use. So it's demanded. So for business English, which appears to be growing, because why? So learners are becoming clearer about what they want to use for English. So in today's global economy, in today's business and affairs, corporations, learners want not only the skills to read, so they're not in need for reading, or they're not looking for reading only. So reading, listening, writing, and speaking English fluently. They also want to be able to communicate, so in a way which will be recognized and appreciated by different by different counterparts internationally. Okay, so that is the consequence of the communication age we live in today. Changed and shaped the world. So we can claim that the term communication age does not only refer to transmissions of digitalized bytes from one person to another, but it also refers to communication processes among real people. According to Siortescu, the business blogger or whatever, so the ultimate key to successful business is communication. The ultimate key, the things that we can tend to be successful in business is communication, effective speaking. So generally, communication can be defined as sending and receiving verbal and nonverbal messages. Like what? So it is effective. It is really fundamental when the message is understood and stimulates the expected action. And then, or thus, we can say that the essence of communication is sharing, providing data, information, insight in an exchange that benefits both you and people with whom you are communicating. So, as a response to effective communication in business context means strengthening business relationships between the company and all its stakeholders. So people from all around the world contribute in a way or another to develop certain skills, to spread. The idea of spreading became an important factor for diffusing an information or a background knowledge. And it helped learners, especially those who are interested in developing business English, to have, we can say, to embrace the business English in a wide area of work. So that is why here accuracy and proper vocabulary usage in English are so important. The primary objective, above all, of learning a language is acquiring specific expressions and phrasing or phrases. And then in this case, learners will feel confident and relaxed if the trainer or the teacher, for example, meets characteristics outlined below. Here, interaction will also be encouraged. So by not over-correcting, by asking too many questions, pondering them, allowing time to answer the questions one by one. The question stands out, which communicative events are of most interest and concern and should be addressed in teaching business English today. So there is a man okay, businessman, or business blogger, Natalie Evans, and John. Okay, list the following based on previously conducted research and published materials: telephoning, socializing, making presentations, taking part in meetings, negotiating, corresponding, and reporting. The authors themselves claims that socializing probably is a misleading term. Why? Because it's not easy to deal with such things in a short period of time. Here, socializing should be replaced by talking to clients, customers, visitors, colleagues, prospects, and foreign managers. Now, I'm going to talk about the CLT, Communication Language Teaching. It's a form of a stated formula in the previous paragraphs talked about before, and it's a key issue in learning teaching business English. Okay, so that's why the communicative approach should be taken when teaching English for business purposes. We don't look for communication only because we are about to study it, but for specific purposes, for specific background knowledge to overcome or to understand. So the goal of language teaching is the ability to communicate. So one has to deal with semantics. One should have some background knowledge about semantics. So semantics, actions, and social functions. These areas of work are as important as linguistic structures. So in case that content is focused on business English, or if it's an academic deal, it becomes a simultaneous concern. Okay, then group and pair work here in this case can be efficient, can be really sufficient. Why? It is common. It's a role play, the dramatization or other activities to facilitate language use in different social contexts. So, and the core principles of CLT, which is communication language teaching, includes developing the students' confidence. It helps one to develop confidence, fluency, autonomy in language, making language practical, and having dealt with the interesting factors, things like social, okay, and teaching here as a language can be useful, of course, relevant and meaningful. There's another point which I would like to discuss, which is intercultural communication. Since we are talking about communication, so it's no use without mentioning culture. So the language and communication can't exist apart from culture. So it's really important to talk about these areas of work. So language and communication can't exist apart from culture. So culture is complex and has different aspects. National, for example, one of the aspects that communication has is national, organizational, professional, and personal too. It's something that can't be spotted easily, but it's rather what lies underneath. In business context, for example, the need to communicate with others from different cultural backgrounds makes intercultural communication highly significant. Such intercultural competence consists of three dimensions. I would like to mention intercultural awareness, which is the cognitive dimension. So without cognition or self-cognition, so culture cannot be sorted out, cannot be meaningful, it's sensical. Okay, it's not sensical. Why? In the sense that one has to be psychologically habituated to self uh, self-critic or self-critiquing and self-recognition, okay, self-correct, whatever. So intercultural sensitivity, which is called, we can say, effective dimension, and intercultural adroitness, behavioral dimension. So it's a key element for the learners, especially those of business English. They need to be aware of things like appropriate language, okay, as well as behavioral outcomes for cultures and situations in which they will function by the time. So these may include matters as purpose of meetings, use of negotiation tactics, information, structuring, and use of politeness strategies in written as well as in oral communication forms. So this is it. So moreover, not only verbal, but also body language differs in cultures. So from one culture to another, the body language or features, or what we call mimic or all forms, differ approximately because of that kind of culture we are talking about. For example, silence as a negotiation technique may be unnatural for Europeans, but very natural for Asian cultures, according to Dudley Evans and Benessaa. Culture needs to be taken into account in teaching business English, especially because of the role of English as an international language in business. This does not only mean learning about the culture of native English speakers like British or like Americans. The term international English has even been used by some scholars, okay, like Dudley Evans and so on and so forth, referring to English, which is used for communication among non-native speakers. Since we live in such global world, where many people interact with each other, so from different cultures, we need to be aware of and sensitive to cultural differences. Okay. And then the idea of competence should be joined, should be reflected, okay, apparently. So let's talk about the competences and skills for postmodern teachers. So we as teachers have to do or have to deal with competences and skills that, or those of what is modern or postmodern, we can say postmodern. This is an exciting and challenging idea, of course, especially in our times, so with students. So the nature of teaching is changing, sorry, because of what comes after this advance. In an effort to transform themselves into exemplary educator preparation institutions, so many programs are becoming more entrepreneurial, okay? So now we talk about entrepreneurship. So we don't talk about individual work directly. So we have to join to embrace the entrepreneurial disciplines, okay? Recognizing new opportunities and making changes required to respond to the needs of the 21st century learners. So the most important thing here is that many are successfully engaged in strategies such as providing high quality interactive routes to teaching, building on private and public partnerships that share common sets of ideas, sets of sharing things, okay, in advancing educational reforms, okay, effectively partnering with the urban schools to prepare teacher candidates to teach in urban environments with large numbers of culturally and linguistically diverse learners. Playing, for example, a greater role with charter and other experimental alternative schools. So effective recruiting career changes to build the teacher workplace, okay? And then creating a robust, very robust clinical experience for teacher candidates, including year-long teaching residency programs and growing a network of over 1,000 professional development schools at least, designed after the medical model of clinical training. This is it. And in order to meet the challenges and demands of the profession, one of the leading figure is leading reform efforts. Okay, provides evidence that the teachers prepared at member institutions will have a positive effort on their students. So there is another thing which is really important I will be talking about now at the moment, which is preparing students for the 21st century economy. Okay, how can we prepare them for the future and how students will get equipped with the idea of 21st century economy as students and future, leaders. Today, as never before, meeting our society's challenges demands educational excellence. If students are not well ranked, okay, school, good results at the end of the year at schools, so there will be no challenge. So the challenge is in between their heads. They have to get high grades so that to join the world and do what they like after baccalaureate. For example, reinvigorating the economy, invigor the fact of achieving energy independence with alternative technologies and green jobs, what we call green jobs, and strengthening our healthcare system require a skilled populace, okay, that is ready for the critical challenges we face. There is widespread consensus in this idea of developing the concepts of belief through achieving success, good results, whatever. There is a widespread consensus, however, that our education systems are failing to adequately prepare all students with the essential 21st century knowledge and skills necessary to succeed in life. How? Career or citizenships, and how? So three significant competitive realities underscore why our education systems are due for dramatic change. The United States, for example, faces two students' achievements gaps. For the past decade, the United States has focused nationally on closing achievements gaps between the lowest and highest performing students and between the poorest and most affluent. And this is really a great idea. Why? Because students learn. Whether they achieve high good results or not, they learn. So this is it. Equally important. However, it is the global achievement gap between the United States students including our top performing students and their international peers in competitor nations. According to a study, more than 80% of jobs are in the service sector, so which includes high growth, high wage, and high skilled occupations in new and emerging industries. So in this new globally interconnected economy, so the world becoming interconnected, banking, things the like, okay, companies, corporations have changed how they are organized and the way they do business. Technology has supported these changes, which include flatter management structures, decentralized decision making. So we talk about centralized and decentralized decision making, information sharing, and the use of task informs. So task teams, cross organizational networking, just in time inventory, and flexible work arrangements. The fundamental changes in the economy, jobs and businesses are driving new, different skill demands. Today, more than ever, individuals must be able to perform and explore non-routine creative tasks, the things the things they do daily on a regular basis, if they are to succeed. Why skills like self-direction, creativity. So self-direction is really essential for students to guide themselves through the right direction without relying on the external factors, because self-direction, it all depends on the person's psychology. So creativity, also critical thinking and innovation may not be now easy for the new advent of technology in the 21st century if people don't take it seriously. So these things we mentioned before are newly relevant in an age where the ability to excel at non-routine work is not only rewarded, but expected as a basic requirement. Whether a high school graduate plans to enter the workforce directly or attend a vocational school, community college, or university, it is a requirement to be able to think critically, solve problems, or problem solving, communicate, collaborate, find good information quickly, and use technology effectively. So these are today's survival skills. So what we call survival skills. Why? Because people of the new era of the advent of technology are in the way through developments thanks to the use of the new technology. So without this, nothing can be developed or progressed. And let's talk about something sturdy and robust, which is about the teacher's way for helping students raise the awareness of learning processes. According to Hutchinson and Waters, the role of the business English teacher is different. Okay, it's really important so to talk about. Okay. So there are many areas of work to tackle, but I'm really sorry because I have to conclude. So, as a conclusion of the whole, e-learning is an effective tool to transfer knowledge, and it has the potential for overtaking the conventional teaching methods. And then e-learning training help what learners and instructors in educational environment. The students' needs are becoming a priority. In this case, for instructors, and thus universities and colleges are implementing e-learning system in their own training programs. Through the study findings, it has been identified that e-learning has been advantageous to its users, of course, in many ways. One of the most dominant characteristics of e-learning is that it ensures ease of communication between teachers and students and contributes in developing student skills. It further contributes in developing scientific material to students in an interesting manner. In contrast to this, e-learner has developed negative influence on students as it promotes social isolation due to increase in screen time. Another thing that I want to include in my conclusion is that future studies are required on a large scale. On a larger scale, including additional online courses, professors and students to better access or assess the advantages and disadvantages and useful strategies of successful students. So the future will be dependent on e-learning. So thank you all. I hope you enjoyed and benefited from this session of today, which is entitled Training and Education Skills. Thank you for everyone. Thanks for the attendees from all around the world. And special thanks go to International Internship University, which gave me this opportunity to share, these ideas of training and education skills. Thank you so much.